Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Bluetron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So today we're looking at an archetype that defies explanation and plays completely differently than anything else in Yu-Gi-Oh, really. We're trying out the new slew of quick play spells and their waifu, Brandish Maidens. So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a little bit of background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and as always, the card by card. So firstly, for those of you who don't know, Brandish Maiden is one of the archetypes set to debut in Dark Savers, a pack which includes vampires and, that questionably pirate-themed archetype that will not be named. It attempts to use its flagship card, Brandish Maiden Ray, to tag back and forth between several different Link monsters, hence the inevitable Zoodiac comparisons, as well as use and recycle their tribal quick play spells. Each spell has an effect and a secondary effect that triggers if you've got 3 or more spells in graveyard, so playing spells that refill themselves like Terraforming, Rhoda, and yes, even Toon Table of Contents is pretty great. We've built the deck as pure as possible. Now keep in mind that, like almost every other archetype originally dreamed up in a deck build pack, this one is extremely xenophobic and does not play well with others. You want to ensure your main monster zones are free at all times to meet the activation conditions of the spell cards, and in order to do that, you've really got to be playing almost exclusively Ray for your monster lineup. Despite this, the fact that Spellbook Magician of Prophecy sends itself as part of the cost of Spellbook of Knowledge means that we can at the very least jam a little bit of a consistent draw engine into this otherwise quite bricky deck, and thankfully the Spellbook combo gets us at least 2/3 of the way there on fulfilling the extra effect condition of the spells. In a perfect world, we'll draw several cards with Blue Boy or a Toon Table, set as many Brandish cards as we want, and use their hyper-consistent searchers to repeatedly add the combo pieces we're missing to our hand. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First are 3 Brandish Maiden Ray, who as a quick effect can tribute herself, fire up those Masks of Restrict, to special summon a Brandish Maiden from your extra deck, and if a Brandish Maiden leaves the field by battle or an opponent's card effect, she can come back from the graveyard. Next are our spellbooks, 1 Blue Boy, 1 Secrets, and 1 Knowledge. After that is our Toon package, 3 Table of Contents, and 1 World, since we need to get 3 cards in our graveyard in order to get the good effects. 1 Rhoda to find Ray, 3 Card of Demise since we're tagging out on our opponent's turn, 3 Terraforming to find 3 Brandish Area 0, which can target a card you control, excavate 3, add a Brandish from there to your hand, then destroy the targeted card. If this card goes to the graveyard, you can special summon a Brandish from your deck. Next is 3 Startup Engage. This card is nuts. It searches a Brandish if you have no monsters in your main monster zones, then draws a card if you've got 3 spells. It's literally just a +1 stapled to a tutor. 3 Mecha Widow Anchor, which negates an effect monster's effect and Change of Hearts if you've got 3 spells. 3 Mecha Eagle Booster, which makes a card unaffected by card effects, then protects it from battle if you've got 3 spells. 3 Multi-Roll, which lets you target a card you control, send it to the graveyard, then your opponent can't respond to your spells this turn, and once per turn during the end phase, you can set Brandish spells with different names from your grave equal to the number of Brandish spells you've activated this turn. Also nuts. 2 Afterburner, which destroys a monster, then destroys a spell or trap if you've got 3 spells. 1 Shark Cannon, which banishes a monster from your opponent's grave, but monster reborns it if you have 3 spells. 1 Jamming Wave, which destroys a set spell or trap, then a monster if you've got 3 spells. And finally, 1 Monster Reborn, 2 Infinite Transients, and 1 Judgment. In the extra, we've got 3 Maiden Knight, which on summon adds a Brandish spell to your hand from the grave and gains 100 for each spell card in your graveyard, then 3 Shizuku, who makes your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack for each spell in the graveyard, then adds a Brandish spell from your deck to your hand as long as it has a different name than anything else in your graveyard. So with that, let's jump into the games. So our first match is up against Gem Knight FTK, and one thing about Gem Knight FTK is it's very hard for them to FTK if they don't have the FT. We have a pretty good grip. We're going to start by activating this copy of Terraforming, get ourselves a copy of Area 0 to our hand. We're going to activate that Area 0 and destroy the set card, which is, of course, a Spellbook of Knowledge we've drawn into without any other copy of the Spellbook suite. We get an Afterburner to hand, then we'll multi-roll away that Area 0 so we can get a Ray on our side of the field. We'll go into a Shizuku, set 2, and then add a copy of Startup Engage at the end of our turn. Our opponent's going to start by activating this copy of Unexpected Die. They, of course, do have an FTK in their hand. They'll normal summon the Rescue Rabbit, which we will take with Widow Anchor, then they'll go into Block Dragon. Block Dragon's going to attack over the Shizuku, which lets Ray float back to the field, and then we'll tag out for a Kagami when he goes to attack with Tourmaline. We go into a copy of Area 0 from our graveyard to our hand off of the Kagami effect. Our opponent's going to go into a Mrs. Radiant in order to get Block Dragons and then make Block Dragon again. We get the Widow Anchor back to our turn with multi-roll at end step, and even though we draw into Toon World, that's pretty good because we can always just destroy it with Area 0. Unfortunately, we only find another Area 0, but still, the Startup Engage means that we'll always be in this game. We'll go ahead and destroy that Mrs. Radiant with our copy of Afterburner, then we'll take this sucker with our copy of Widow Anchor. We'll destroy our Area 0 so we can normal summon a couple copies of Ray and attack. So we got 15, 25, 5, 15, and 21, just 400 points off lethal. Unfortunately, isn't enough, but the writing's kind of on the wall for this one. We'll set 1 and then activate the effect of Shizuku at end step to get a Widow Anchor, and set 2. Oh my god, what an incredible plus off of that multi-roll. Our opponent's going to go into a Mrs. Radiant once again, getting Block Dragon's effect, then making Block Dragon one more time, but really can't do anything. We take 1100, but not a big deal. And at this point, we're basically just BMing, because of course we have the Widow Anchor in hand. We'll go ahead and try to destroy our Ray, and oh, no Brandish cards, huh? Well, we can always destroy it with multi-roll, then use Afterburner to, I don't know, BM. We'll go into a copy of Startup Engage, a couple of Toon Table of Contents, and then finally we're going to go ahead and attack for 400. So our second match is up against Dino Dolls, a deck that actually wants to go second, which is really good news for us. Slightly less good news is that we've drawn a copy of Toon Table of Contents and Toon World in the same opening hand. That's not ideal, but thankfully we do have one other spell that refills itself, so we can still get those sick 3-spell extra effects. We'll start by activating 2 copies of Toon Table of Contents, and anytime you see this happening, you know something degenerate's about to occur. We'll then get an Area 0 out of our deck with this Terraforming, then destroy the Toon World that we're about to set. That gets us a... ooh, Startup Engage. Well, there's no OPT on Startup Engage, so we'll just draw 2, and you know what? Let's normal summon the Ray, tag out into a Kagari, and then add the Startup Engage back to our hand to draw 2 one more time. We'll set 4, and then at end step use multi-roll to get one of those Startup Engages back to our side of the board. Our opponent's going to start by activating Fossil Dig, then normal summoning a copy of Overraptor. Now, one card that screws this up is Kaijus. I don't want him getting those, so we'll go ahead and Widow Anchor that sucker right now. They do have the pill, so they'll go into UTC. We don't really want them to destroy everything on our side of the board, so we'll Eagle Booster our Link monster, and then they'll pass it back. That's really good news for us because we can set 2 cards with our multi-roll, and then take that sucker with the Widow Anchor as soon as possible. We'll use multi-roll to destroy the Area 0, and this isn't exactly 8,000 points of damage, but since we have another multi-roll in hand, we can always get rid of the UTC instead of giving it back to them. We'll do just that, and unfortunately we don't get to set anything else, but it's still probably good enough. Our opponent's going to start by Dark Holing, which isn't a big deal because our Ray floats, then they'll normal summon an Armageddonite, whose effect will be negated by transients, and they will concede. Alright, so you know what time it is. It's time for a best of 3 versus meta, and after mulling it over, I think our worst matchup has got to be Trickstar, so let's see how we do against that. Unfortunately, we have bricked, like mega bricked. 2 copies of Widow Anchor, a multi-roll and jamming wave alongside a Solemn Judgment are not where we want to be. Our opponent has also bricked, however, 2 copies of Eater of Millions versus our 0 monster hand, an Effect Veiler against a 0 monster hand, and like a Lilybell and a Reincarnation. I think Reincarnation is better for me than them at this point. They get to start, so they'll set a copy of Reincarnation and pass it back to us. Come on, something, and it's Spellbook of Knowledge, of course. We're going to set 2 and pass it back. Our opponent draws the deadest card in their deck, Regeki. We draw one more time, and it's another brick, another multi-roll. We'll set the other Widow Anchor, pass it back. They find Candina. That's unfortunate. We'll go ahead and Solemn Judgment, but they'll Reincarnation so that they can reborn that sucker, then try to go for lethal by making a couple of copies of Eater of Millions. I guess it does have 1500 attack if you're really greedy. We'll go ahead and set one of them to 0 with Widow Anchor, take a little chip damage, and then do the same thing with the other one. Once again, taking 200 off the Candina. God, I wish we had 3 spells in grave. Yuck. Okay, well, now we have a hand that almost does things. We'll start by normal summoning this Ray, going into a Kagari, using Kagari's effect. Effect Veiler gets chained, but we have a copy of Mech Eagle Booster to get that card back to our hand. We're going to take a little bit of chip damage off the Candina to do so, then we'll Afterburner one of these copies of the Eater of Millions, and attack over the other because, of course, she is not affected by monster effects. We'll go ahead and tag into a Shizuku, set 2, and then use Shizuku to get a Startup Engage, but not particularly good against Trickstar, drawing cards. They draw into a copy of Pot of Desires. They're going to activate Regeki. We take a little chip damage for protecting our monster, and they find a Reincarnation and a Licorica. So they'll attack directly with a Lilybell. That does 400 to us. They'll return it to the hand and then special summon it again for another 400. We're, of course, going to take 200 in our draw step, and there's really no way to win this one. Even activating a spell kills us. And after they Reincarnation, we'll try to activate a spell and then die to the chip damage from the Candina. Alright, game 2, and we're going first, which is an improvement. Another step in the right direction is that we've drawn a target for the Spellbook of Knowledge. Hallelujah. We're going to normal summon this copy of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, get ourselves a copy of Spellbook of Secrets, then activate Knowledge to draw 2 and destroy the secrets with our Area 0. That's going to get us a copy of, I'll take the multi-roller, please. We'll go ahead and activate that sucker and get ourselves a Ray by destroying the Area 0, then we will tag out into a Shizuki, set 2, and at end step add a Startup Engage from our deck to our hand. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning a copy of Candina, and we're going to go ahead and negate its effect with this copy of Infinite Transience. That's pretty good for us until we see the Terraforming, so they're still going to have access to everything. They're going to get a Licorica. We're going to Mech Eagle Booster before they can target us, and here comes the Desires, into a Desires, and a copy of Scapegoat. We're going to get an Area 0 back at the end step with our multi-roller, and thankfully we have everything we could ever want. We're going to first prevent them from being able to respond by using multi-roller, then we're going to blow up their entire field with Afterburner, draw 2 with this copy of Startup Engage, one of which is Card of Demise, so we'll draw 3, go into another Area 0. Oh man, things are really getting off to the races now, and oh my god, another Startup Engage! We draw into an Infinite Transience. We'll set that and lose 1 card, I guess. Our opponent's going to start by normal summoning Candina, getting its effect. I'm pretty okay with that. That's a reincarnation. Then they'll go into an Eater of Millions. After targeting one of our set cards, they'll draw, oh my god, 2 more cards off another Desires. Now we just got to grind them out. We'll go ahead and activate this Widow so that we can prevent our opponent from banishing our card with their copy of Eater of Millions, and then we'll use multi-roll, which unfortunately gets Ghost Ogred here. So now we're in a bit of a pickle, but not too badly. We're going to start by Widow Anchoring. That triggers the Licorisica. Now we just have to deal with that card, which isn't particularly hard. We'll attack for 1200, 1300 over, and then we'll go into Kagari. Kagari is going to get us a copy of Startup Engage, and oh shoot, this actually prompts the Droll Unlock. So now we have to win with the cards we have on our side of the field, but that's not particularly difficult. Our opponent's going to start by, geez, I mean, they're just out of stuff in their deck, right? We're going to use Mech Eagle Booster, and they'll set a Candina. I mean, they have 5 cards left. It's not like they have much else to do. We'll Toon Table a couple of times. I mean, not a particularly good draw, but at the very least it gets the Toon Tables out of our deck. We get to destroy the Toon World with this copy of Area 0, and a Startup Engage. That's a good card. They'll go ahead and special summon a copy of Licorisica from Graveyard. We draw into a Solemn Judgment and a multi-roller. I mean, we are high-rolling right now. We're taking a little bit of chip damage off of the Light Stage and the Licorisica, but it's not a big deal. We can go ahead and Afterburner anything that's particularly scary. We'll go ahead and hit the Licorisica and the Field Spell, attack over the Candina, and pass it back. Our opponent is just all the way out of options here. They go ahead and Regeki, but we actually plus off of it. We go into Ray, we tag into Kagari, we add a copy of Widow Anchor to our hand. They'll Candina, getting the last card in their deck, Lilybell, which is somehow not banished. Then we'll take it with the Widow Anchor. They'll Reborn and concede. Alright, so grit your teeth, it's time for game 3. We both opened pretty well, but unfortunately I think that favors the Trickstar player. They're going to start by activating this copy of Trickstar Light Stage, getting a copy of Candina to their hand. They'll Pot of Desires. They don't find anything they need but another copy of Scapegoat. Then they'll get a Reincarnation, set 4 and pass. And I've seen a Droll open a couple of times in my life, so we'll set 4, activate Toon Table of Contents, and ooh, what a surprise! Here comes the Trickstar Reincarnation and the Droll. Okay, well, can we win with the cards that we have set? We'll start by Afterburnering away the Candina. And there's Scapegoat. That pretty much spells the end for us. We can't really interact with it particularly effectively. They'll start by going into a Link Spider, a copy of Proxy Dragon, another Link Spider, and here's Borreload, of course. They'll normal summon a Candina. I guess we have to negate its effect with Widow Anchor, but that frees up their ability to Light Stage our Card of Demise they hit. Okay, well, now the game's probably over. They're going to go ahead and deal a lot of damage, then Reincarnation back at Candina, attack us directly, and put us all the way back down to 600. So we're dead to literally any spell activation at this point. We draw into a Ray, which is something, but unfortunately Terraforming will just kill us. So we're back with the deck now. I don't think any deck's viability should be determined based on how well it combats being Droll Unlock looped. But regardless, the deck does have weaknesses. There's a lot to be excited about. It's pretty consistent. It has an unbelievable grind game, and it's got flashy plays, but it loses to so much. Ghost Ogres on multi-roll, Ashes on anything, Drolls at any point during our Draw 6 Fest, Kaijus, yuck. While it definitely excels against linear strategies like Gem Knight, FTK, and Dinos, it's not particularly good against a player who knows how to combat the deck and wants to interact. So that's that. If I had to rate this deck's viability, I'd put it around Magical Musketeers. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Tuesday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time. And if you have an idea for a certain deck or archetype you want to see me play on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to accommodate you. Otherwise, see you Wednesday.